Nicho Hynes, that's right. The hot boy Hynes, he is our hungriest player. Hair wetter than the ocean. Absolutely outstanding game. What I loved about this game for Hynes, and we'll get deeper into it in the thing, I saw some mongrel in him. I saw some bravado, some basically saying like, you know, I'm the man. I'm going to take this team to a win. I got a bunch of try assists, some tries, all that good stuff. That's what I want to see from Hynes, because this is a problem for Hynes that he's always going to face. It doesn't matter whether he plays terribly or he's the best player in the comp. People are going to hate on him. So he may as well just go, you know what? I am a bloody good footy player. Yeah, I am on $1 million a year. And just lean into that confidence. Now, I know some people's personalities just doesn't suit that way, but he's going to get haters no matter what. And look, I'm not saying people that critique him are haters. That's not. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are people that no matter what he does, it's hate. That is always going to exist. He's a good-looking bloke, earn a lot of coin playing rugby league. That's the way the world is. So I love the fact that we saw a bit of just bravado, a bit of mongrel about him, layering up. I liked it, and I felt like you could actually see that in the way he played.
Yeah, I agree. I love that he just ran the ball early. He set himself up in that game for the back end. Some of the passes he threw, in the second half were sensational. But I just love Nicho when he runs, and I think that goes back to what he was, originally a fullback. Had a really good.
He's
running
deceptively strong too, and also he doesn't look that fast, but he always seems to kind of beat that first defender or brush off the tackle. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, deceptively strong, but deceptively quick. He moves so quick those first 3-4 steps, and just such a timely reminder, I think, to himself of how dominant his running game can be. In this game, he single-handedly pretty well won them the game and dismantled the Dolphins, who had been in some terrific form. And they scored 4 tries. He scored 2 of them off his own back with his running game. He threw the ball to Nicho to pop it then to Ramian, and he isolated Sean O'Sullivan with that ball as well. And then he had that peach of ball to Katoa. So, he was responsible for all 4 of the tries that the Sharkies scored. And you talk about haters wanting it, going against Nicho Hynes and finding it hard to end his success. You saw comments on social media and people just straight away jumped on, oh yeah, but the Dolphins were injury played. It's they've been injury played all season and they've been putting up some brilliant performances. And this game for the Sharks was near enough a must-win in my eyes. The Dolphins
absolutely.
had rested Hammer. They were back home. They were going through a lean spell. Nicho took him, put him on his back, and got him across the line.
Yeah, and what I love about all of it, 26 tackles, 0 misses as well on top of all of it. That's one area where I feel like any half has lapses every now and then, but I feel like his defence from a few years ago is improved dramatically. And also, you've got to remember, granted, I get it, Katoa is 21. You couldn't find bigger fans of Katoa, but he was going up against the Form 7 in the comp, the Form 7 of the comp, and he got the job done.
Yeah, he did. He looked great. One of his better games in a while. Do you still think though that he's got number 7 on his back? That felt like a bit of a number 6 game. Obviously, ran the footy a lot more. Trindle, they split the kicking pretty well, but Trindle probably did a little bit more of it. Is he playing like a number 6? And is it what's the point?
Funnily enough, basically 10 kicks to Trindle, 9 kicks to Hynes. Look, I agree with you. He is playing a bit like a 6.
Yeah.
And not always, sorry, opposite. I actually am to the point where I would just put the 6 back on his jersey because it gives him less pressure. However, if he keeps playing like this,
doesn't matter what number he's got on. Yeah. No, very impressive. He was back at his best this weekend.
Look, Sharks v Dolphins. Let's get into it, shall we? Sharks v Dolphins. As we were just discussing, guys, this was, in my opinion, a season on the line game, and it was the Hynes show. It was the Hynes show, and I'm so happy. As I said, I've seen Hynes play well before, so that's not really a surprise to me that he can play some good footy. Even this year, yes, there have been games where you've needed him to step up. We've been critical of him. We've talked about it. You guys know that listen to this podcast. But even with all of that being said, all the pressure, when you go and actually look at his stats, the only person with more line engagements and more try assists, the only 7 with more try assists and line engagements than him is Katoa. And Katoa leads line engagements by literally 80, which again shows you just how good he's going. But try assists, Hynes is second for 7s in the competition. But what I liked the most about this performance, it was the yelling, the what did we speak about a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago? Timmy, you brought it up. I just want to see a bit more mongrel. And I like the fact that Hynes was yelling and ranting and all that kind of stuff. I feel like they've got all the talent in the world. They got the systems. They got the ticker. It's just that extra bit of mongrel. And then they added Brayley's running game onto it. I thought it was a really strong win from the Sharkies.
When he scored that second try and essentially sealed the match, and you're right, Kempin, he got up and there was just steel in his eyes of screw you all, I can do this, I can be the man. I was like, all right, Nicho, here we go. Like, there's that passion. There's this will to win that we've been looking for. And it was like, there was malice in it. And I loved it.
I loved it. And the thing, as I said earlier, the thing is with Hynes, it doesn't matter how good or bad he goes, he will have haters. And I'm not talking about people that critique him. That's not hating. Critiquing a professional rugby league player is not hating. I'm talking about the people that, like, Hynes has a really good game, they lose, and they just go, oh, Hynes' shit, it was all on Hynes, it was his fault. Or they have a really good game, Hynes plays well, and they go, oh, yeah, but where was that all last week? It's like, okay, you can't win. And so that's always going to happen. And so he needs to just create a mentality of, obviously appreciate the fans that love him, for sure. Appreciate all fans. They pay their money. But at the same time, I think that the Sharkies need to almost go a bit of a me against the world kind of attitude, because it seemed to have worked for Hynes on the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just so good to see him have a response like that. He's just been copping it left, right and centre. And, you know, at times I think it's been valid throughout the year, but other times I think it's just been so far off the mark. Like we've spoken about a lot, the calls for him to move positions and all this sort of crap. I do think probably the one concern I have with the Sharkies boys is that they can't, two halves, like it's either always one's good and one's not, which has its pros and cons. Like if one's got the hot hand, you let them go. But sometimes I sort of feel like with them it's just whichever one turns up that day. The other one sort of struggles to find their way next to them. Where do you guys sort of sit on that?
Well, that's where I feel like they should just say to Trindle, you're the 7. Your job is getting us around the park. Like, you know, all that extra stuff in attack. Yeah, if you get the hot hand, great. But I feel like even subconsciously their roles are a bit like they don't even know at times.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, because Hynes is the man, but you've got essentially them kicking the same. And I know people with the argument against that would be like, well, we always talk about kick pressure. When you've got both players kicking, it makes it, you know, more options. But I reckon subconsciously they're both kind of like, you know, are you the conservative 7 that gets us around the park, or are you the big dog that gets, you know, it's a bit mixed. I think that it's good in theory, like this idea of like having both that can attack and both that can also get you around the park. But I think in the big moments, you need to make sure someone knows who the big dog is in that moment.
It feels like they show up each week and they work it out in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, almost. Yep, absolutely. On the fly kind of thing.
And I almost think, watching the last few weeks, maybe this is over the top, but I almost think like the main guy at the moment is Blake Brayley.
Mate, he's
He's just controlling the middle. He's deciding where they're going. Like, I feel like he's one of the bigger decision makers in this side at the moment. I just feel like he's pulling the right rein every single time. He's not the best hooker in rugby league, but he's the most in-form hooker for me.
Mate, he's one of the most consistent, that's for sure. 120 games on the trot, unbelievable stuff. I don't mind that shout, because I'll never forget when they went down to Melbourne, they had both halves missing, and Brayley just said, we're just going to play around the ruck up flat. I don't mind that, because then if you, it's almost like Hodgson at Raiders for that period where he kind of controlled a lot of the ruck and where they were getting. You know, maybe you take it off Trindle and you take it off Hynes and you go, Brayley, you're the man, and Hynes and Trindle, you know, just get on the back of the quick play of the balls and play front foot footy, which they're really good at. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, look, I don't read into as much as you boys who wears the 6 and who wears the 7. I don't really care, and I don't think the club cares either. But like the way I see it, and the best foot forward for these two and their combination is they both dominate in different ways. It is Trindle in and around the ruck and getting the team to a field position and, you know, worrying about getting around the park. But when they're attacking and they're set plays and they're sweeping movements, that's when Nicho's the man. He's the best attacker out of these two.
Definitely.
You know, he can control and get him around if he needs to, but when it's putting points on the board and the polish, throwing that last pass, the strong running game, it's Nicho Hynes. So I'm happy for Trindle, you know, traditionally to be playing that 7 role of getting him around the park. And then when you get to the opposition 20 or 30, or when you're using it out of your own end, it's Nicho Hynes is the man.
Yeah. I think that's their best setup. And that's why I know you don't care whether it's 7 or 6, and I understand what you're saying. Like, it, you know, does it really change things? I just think it helps everyone extremely clear who the traditional 7 is, and also I just think it takes pressure off Hynes' end. And
I think it matters more for this team than most other sides, because they get to big stages, and this is where it gets a little bit wishy-washy.
Of who's,
I would want it to be just very clear whose role it is, because as I said, I feel like they get to games and they sort of decide midway through. You do that to finals where it's 3 weeks against the best teams in the comp. I think they'll be on a hiding to what they've got the last few years. I also think, like, if you just freed Nicho's mind up to be that weapon in attack,
running,
he would just go to a whole nother level again.
Like, he came onto the scene as essentially a utility at the Storm, but as a fullback with his outstanding running game. And even his best work, probably when he won the Dalian medal as a halfback, it's his running game. Lean into that, and I'm with you, mate. Like, don't make like Nicho Hynes have to worry about the next play and get him to point A, B, or C. Let him run the ball, and he's got an outstanding passing game as well. Let him focus on the best aspects of his game, and let Trindle get him around the park.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brayley, though. So there's a period here when the game was on the line. Brayley had a run, got a quick play the ball, then Hynes sets up the Ramian try. Then Brayley, with 16 to go, chops one of the Dolphins down. They knock it on. And then Brayley gets a repeat set after that. And essentially, at that point is where, the Sharkies kind of closed the game off. Like, that was just towards the end of the game, so it's not even at the start of the game. Brayley, for me, has been arguably one of the players of the last month. Just regardless of position, I think he has been so good this last month of rugby league. And I just think that what's added to his game is his running game. He's been running more.
It's probably a bit of a hot take. I reckon he'll go dangerously close to like a spot in that Ashes squad at the end of the year. I think the Sharkies can do well come finals time and just be around there. I reckon he'll get very close because I don't see that team picking two hookers. I think they'll either run with a starting, like Harry Grant will be the 9. I reckon Blake Brayley would be a really good fit. The way that
you don't think they'll pick two hookers, or they will pick two hookers?
I think that when you're picking the 17 week to week, I don't think they'll pick two hookers.
Oh, so he'll be out of the squad, you mean?
I reckon,
so you've got him there just in case.
Like the only one that I could see them picking is like Ben Hunt, but we think his rep career's
I think it's
over.
Think so, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think they'll pick Harry Grant at 9. Obviously, he's the best hooker in rugby league.
Well, it really is between him and Reece Robson, really.
Who else is? Yeah, and I personally don't think Reece Robson will play finals footy, so he'll be out of the frame for 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
I think Brayley will get a little bit closer.
Because when you said that, I just thought Reece Robson immediately, because I thought he was really good in the Origin series, but
and he was. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, because they probably won't play finals footy, or they're done pretty much. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, it's a great point.
It's a great point.
I'm not sure. I think it'd probably come down. No, I think it'll be Robson and Grant. I actually thought, we lost the series, but I thought Reece Robson was really good for us and one of the more shining lights.
But do you think, if they go deep in the finals and Brayley's one of their best players,
yeah,
I would go Robson, but...
I just think if they wanted to pick Robson as a 14, and they may or they may not, but I think you can play Robson through the middle as a 13, whereas Blake Brayley is an out-and-out number 9, so it just gives another option there. But look, they might... We've seen in the past as well with the Australian squad, playing like Harry Grant and having like a Ruben Cotter there, whether or not he's in the 17, I'm not sure, but him slot in and play about 15 minutes at number 9 as well. We've seen that used. So I don't know which way they'll go, but I do think that Reece Robson will be ahead of Blake Brayley.
I reckon that we're going to get to that Kangaroo side. Are they going to leave Nath Cleary out of the team?
Dearden will probably be 14, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to pick one hooker on the bench, and I reckon Blake Brayley can beat him out towards the back end of the season.
Okay, interesting. What I will say, I think Robson, but I don't think it's as far off as some people.
I don't think it's as far as what people assume.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. To be honest, you could almost... I know, Cleary is the best 7 in the competition at Clubland, but Dearden has been so good in big games. There might be a bit of pressure on that 7 jersey. And then
there should be pressure on that jersey.
Then you don't know, you're probably not going to pick Cleary as a 14 potentially. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, Sharkies fans, getting a bit sidetracked.
Bottom point, I think Blake Brayley's having a cracking season. I think he's being underappreciated massively.
Yep.
When the Sharks are going good, he's going good. And I think that the range that he can play with is a bit bigger than what Reece Robson's is at the moment.
His first 6 games of the season, he didn't run for over 31 metres. Ran for 64 in round 7, then he ran for 10 metres in round 8. In the last 4 weeks, he's run for over 100 metres twice.
And you know what the point of difference there is? Conversation with Beak.
Changed it all.
He was on the captain's run. And I asked him, why do you run more, mate? I didn't say it like that. I just said, anyway.
He took it on board.
Just saying, look, it might be a coincidence.
Are you saying that you saved the Sharks season and got Blake Brayley picked for the Kangaroos?
Look, I'm not saying it. You put that out there. You can agree with it or disagree with it. But that's a great... So 100 metres twice. That's super interesting.
111, and comfortably 111 on the weekend, round 19. And then round 15 against the Dragons, 122.
Wow.
Is he Dally M 9 of the year, or... Harry Grant's been good. I don't think he's set the world alight this year.
He's been injured a little bit as well.
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah.
Tough for grabs, but...
So I think there'll be a lot of momentum heading... I think he'll get Dally M Hooker of the year if the Sharkies are playing finals and the Cowboys aren't.
Unless Harry Grant just goes boom for these last 6-7 rounds.
Which he quite possibly could,
yeah. That's fair. It's a fair shout. What do you reckon about the Sharkies, mate?
Yeah, that was a good win by them on the weekend. I completely agree with your points about Brayley. I think he's had a really good, solid season. But they came back well off the bye. Leading into the bye, they looked a little bit, busted, and they probably hadn't played that well since they beat the Storm in Cronulla a while ago. But yeah, they just looked really composed on the weekend, and I think definitely one of Nicho's best games in a while. It's interesting the point around the jerseys. Like, I suppose if they're playing well and they're humming like they did on the weekend, it doesn't really matter for Hynes and Trindle. But I do think they're better off. To Rue's point around the clarity, they look a little bit disorganised, and it's got away from them a few times against good teams this year, like the Storm, who beat them last time they played. Like, I feel like it. Even though Nicho had a great game on the weekend, I'd probably make that change and just make it nice and crystal clear. Yeah, definitely. He just played like a 6.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
I'll tell you, the other one's having a really good month for the Sharkies, who no one talks about and no one really notices him. He's just getting better every week off the bench. That Jesse Colquhoun.
Yeah.
He's starting to turn into a good little footballer.
I'll tell you what, I'll be honest. When I first saw him, I was like, fringe first grader.
I was a bit iffy as well.
But he's definitely building nicely into a good footy player. I'm with you, mate. Shout out to Cam McInnes. Apparently he was bloody on a hospital bed. He couldn't barely move his neck with a big Susan Boyle on the neck, apparently. And he had to get it drained twice, I think. No, he had to get it drained, came out to play, and then went back to get it drained again.
Do you know what he said after the game? Pretty much said, AFB, I think AFB had his grandfather's funeral on Friday.
Actually, did see this.
Nicho had a child, so he sort of went, if those boys are here, why aren't I?
Yeah. Well, because you could nearly die from infection.
You died, so you were nearly burnt bread. That's probably why.
That's probably why. But respect.
But showed up and 34 tackles, none missed. So there you go.
Far out. So good, so tough. I thought Kennedy had a really good game at the back there. I thought he got through a bunch of work. The tough thing for Kennedy is that he's been good this year, but he's been great even sometimes. But has he been like lights out, win a premiership in this spine kind of great? And he hasn't been re-signed yet for next year, I'm pretty sure. It's for next year, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. What do you think they do there? It's a tough call. It's a super tough call. Now, reports are they don't have much money in the cap. If they're going to lose Dykes, it seems like there's, an inkling of what direction they're going to have. They got Bison, I think. Is it Bison?
Yeah. Bison, yeah.
And Bison, Street Fighter. Thoughts?
I love Will Kennedy. I just don't know if he's got the upside to win a comp with him at fullback. You have a look through the history of the game and fullbacks that have won comps. With all due respect to Will Kennedy, I think if he was to win a comp, not he'd be the worst fullback, but he'd probably be the lowest ceiling fullback that's ever won a comp, realistically. Mate, I look at Talakai at centre, got Raimi Moore, Talakatau, could Ito have a shot there? I know he's played a little bit there in reserve grade. I'd be interested to see how he goes there.
They're like the Dylan Edwards route of just heaps of work, work on his ball playing a little bit.
People talk about, Will Kennedy, he's safe, but I just think you could get more there. I think you need more than safe if you want to win a comp, in my opinion. I feel really bad saying that because he's been good, Will Kennedy.
It's maybe one of his better years. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's been excellent this year. And they're a bigger strike weapon fullbacks in the competition, and maybe he's a premiership quality fullback, maybe he's not, but I think the star in this side, if they're going to win a comp, Nicho Hynes needs to be putting on more performances like the weekend, and he's the star of the show. And I think if Nicho's doing that, and I think that's the only way that they can win a comp, then I think that Will Kennedy can continue to do a job at fullback. I think he's been great this year. He's been durable for them when a lot of their backup fullbacks for a number of years, Dykes, Ison have had these injuries, and I just think it's you bring in, whether it's you continue with the youth development or you bring in a 19 or 20-year-old from another club with a lot of upside to continue to heap pressure on him. I don't think his spot's ever going to be safe, but I think he's been really good this year.
What I'll say on the counter of that as well is that, Will Kennedy, he's won 500.
Well, I was about to say,
the value you're getting out of him is very good, which allows you to re-sign all these other dudes.
My point with Kennedy would be this: it all just depends on how much he's asking. If he's asking for 400 to 500, I'm definitely keeping him. Because then you can sign rookies that are coming through, and then make the call, in a year's time or whatever. If he's asking, 600 to 700, that's when I start going, that's we probably need to spend our money elsewhere. Because what I do think could work for them is Kennedy on his day he's outstanding. I actually think on his day he is He's not top tier, but he's probably a tier below it, which is good enough for me when you've spent the money elsewhere. So if they can spend the money elsewhere and have, I personally believe they've got the most underrated backline in the competition. You go look at all their stats. When they're on, they're on. You've got Katoa, Mulatalo, Ito, Ramian. I know Ramian hasn't had the best year, but when he's on, he's on. If you can spend that money in another forward that's like, a tier below Adam Fanua or Blake, but still there or thereabouts, then I go, it's worth it. And I feel like you can find other ways to kind of make it work. But it just all depends on how much is he asking and how much they spend.
There's an article from late May from Code Sports, and they said that, and again, this very much may have changed since May 24 when it came out, but Cronulla officials saying that he'd need to sign on for $300K per season, which he's worth more than that. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think he's worth more.
Maybe not heaps more, but
he's definitely worth more.
He's worth $455. Yeah.
I'd get him about if you get him $450, I reckon that's a good deal.
Yeah,
I reckon that's a good deal. I felt like 10 minutes before half time, the Sharks' defence was outstanding because the Dolphins actually completed 100% for 35 minutes, for the first 35 minutes. And I feel like the defence before half time, where the Dolphins just had them under pressure, really did probably win them the game. And that's probably something that I know that they're a bit up and down, and you probably could look at their average leaked points per game. But when the Sharks turn up, they actually have a really good defence. It's just a matter of doing it week in, week out. But I thought just before half time, their defence was outstanding. And I thought hasn't Wilton just under the radar? His try save was incredible, but just under the radar, gotten better each week. So much so, I'll never forget. Was it against the Broncos? When he was on the field, he was tearing us apart. As soon as he went off, the game changed. Now, I'm not saying it was just him, but I tell you what, that point of attack that they were so easily getting, they just lost it. And so I just think T. Wilton's was one of those guys that is just getting better each game and probably doesn't get appreciated because Nicho is just so good on the other side. I think T. Wilton's underrated.
I think a couple of weeks ago when they had injuries, didn't he captain the side?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be crazy. I'd be shocked if you did.
I could be wrong on that.
Could you Google that, please, Matty?
A couple of weeks ago. But yeah, mate, he's one that at the start of last season when Matt Moylan left. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Held in high regard over there at the Sharks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that says a lot then.
I was critical of him at the start of last year because defensively I wasn't convinced. And mate, Sharks fans absolutely pounded the shit out of me, and I thought it's a bit over the top, blah blah blah. But mate, they've turned out to be spot on.
Sharkies fans pounding the shit out of you, eh?
Yep. Okay. Get what you deserve sometimes, mate.
And you're not the rugby league guru. How do they spell it on Twitter? The fake account?
Which one?
I got to say,
good line, buddy.
Matty has shown me some of those tweets, and it's the funniest thing ever.
He words it well.
He does word it extremely well. So look, T. Wilton, I thought he had some really good moments. I'm just looking through my notes. Start of the game, Adam G, 3 yardage penalties. What's doing? Terrible head high. Fuck me dead. Outstanding kick chase. Tackle, Brayley keeping. A psycho in goal. Poor kick, Fini Fuaki. Great save. Oh, sorry.
That Fini Fuaki kick was wild.
It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
The ball. Yeah.
Listen, I think it's a really good win for the Sharkies. You do have to say, though, and yes, the Dolphins have played well without key players in the, to start the year. They were missing, I think Nikodima was a real miss for them. Obviously, he's been so good this year. They were missing some players. So for the Sharkies, it's all about not getting too ahead of themselves. Good foundation. Roosters are going to be a mad clash next week. Roosters next week, I think.
Correct.
So good win. Okay, on to the Dolphins. They laid such a good foundation to win this game. And as I said, the 100% completion rate, it kept them in the game in the first 20. They had a lot of field position. The Sharks defended their ass off. And so you've got this great foundation. But then they just had these moments. Like, I think Lemuelu had some really poor errors, tried to one-on-one strip. Then he had a clean drop ball. Obviously, the Fini Fuaki kick. There were just some moments where you're just going, a team that's already missing so many players, like, you did so well for 35, 40 minutes. You did, to be real, for the first half, really. And then that second half, you just completely undid all the good work that you did in the first half. So, look, I understand that they're missing key players, but that's the thing with the Dolphins this year. They've proven that they can play nearly anyone and get the job done.
They've set such a high standard for themselves that you sort of lose the context of all their injuries at times and whatnots. I'll tell you one thing that I really took out of this game was, if you go back to round one, Cody Nikorima, they had to move the game down to Sydney. He didn't play. Sean O'Sullivan came in. And if you have a look at their touches that game between Sean O'Sullivan and Isaiah, I think Isaiah had 3 more touches of the football then. And I remember coming on the show that week going, fuck, Isaiah is too polite to say, Sean, get the fuck out of the way. This is my football team. And you look at the way that he's, obviously developed over the last 15 weeks or so, and you have a look at their touches this week. Isaiah had almost 30 more touches than Sean O'Sullivan this week, which I just love to see.
Yeah.
His development.
Yeah.
Just shows that he's really starting to take control.
There's actually, it might have been after the game or it was close towards the end. They had him in a huddle and it was Katoa doing these ones.
Yeah.
And it's just like, geez, that is so good to see for the Dolphins. But just, as I said, they laid such a great foundation. They started the game so well, did everything right, literally everything they could possibly do right to get themselves into the game and fatigue the Sharkies. And they just come out in the second half and just lost it. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, they're a gritty outfit, aren't they? Like you said, they turned over too much ball late in that second half, chasing points, but said they almost hit the lead. They were within a whisker. And, while you want to be a little bit critical, they scored their 2 tries in the game late on, but they said they hung in the contest. They lost their fullback. They lost their 5'8", on top of an already big injury toll. They went down to Cronulla on a Friday night to open the round. There were a lot of things going against them. They had a debutant on the wing. So even like Sean O'Sullivan came in and he was just the focal point of where the Sharks were trying to attack. And they got through him. They got on top of him a few times in this game. So they've just had a lot of personnel changes. And again, it wasn't pretty at times, but they still gave him a chance to win a game where, as we said, this was everything for the Sharkies, and they got up for it. Not their best game, but they've been good.
And they found the Sharkies after a bye. Just quickly, Katoa's average run meters this year is 116 meters.
It's gone through the roof. Yep.
Like, it just shows you that. I think he's probably taken a leaf out of Cleary's book. Go back to his early years, about 60 meters. As soon as he started running 100 metres and over, he obviously won all those premierships. Just how much the conservative sevens role has changed. Like, it is just, when we were growing up, it was, if you're a 7, you don't even, it's good if you have a running game, but really you're there to guide around the park, be a good ball player. Now it's almost like you have to have a running game. Just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So Isaiah in his first year, he averaged 46 run metres per game. Second year, 80 metres. Now he's at 116.
Jeez. Now, I've got to talk about it. Herbie Farnworth. I think it was 1 or 2 reads in defence, but outside of that, my God, this guy, his ability to play well. He plays 9 out of 10 every single week. Like, I can't even remember a time where he was 8 out of 10. That's how good he's been. I thought in attack especially, he was absolutely phenomenal. You can look at his stats for sure, and they're massive. 23 runs, 257 metres, 69 post contact, 7 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, a line break assist, 5 offloads, 10 tackles, only 2 misses. You can look at that, but it's just, he's the heart and soul of that team. And I really do feel like, yes, the Broncos are beginning to learn of life without Herbie. But if you ever want to see how much he means to a side, look how much they missed him the year that he left. And I think if you plucked him out of this Dolphin side, it genuinely would change the whole fabric of that side. He is an integral part to nearly every single set because he nearly has a run every single set.
Him and Critter, who's the best centre in rugby league? I'd still go Critter personally, but
I go Critter just these big moments. And also, because he's had these great Origin games too, and that's what was always going to work against Herbie, is that he hasn't had the opportunity to play in these Origin games.
Yeah.
And obviously the captaincy of Critter as well. But when you're looking at just stats, if you took out names, it's Herbie. Just
you go
stats.
blank resume, it's Herbie now.
With the stats. As in individual performances.
Stats this year, Herbie's just been on another level.
But, as we always say, it's more to rugby league and stats, blah, 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 all that good stuff. What do you think of Herbie, mate? Timmy?
Yeah, he's a freak. I would still have Critter ahead of him just because, there are a few moments in this game where he was caught out defensively with a few poor reads. That just almost doesn't exist with Critter nowadays. But, in attack, he's just absurd. That run he made in the try he scored. He's obviously quite a big boy, very lean frame, but the footwork he's got, and he's equal leader in the competition for offloads per game with Terrell May.
That's crazy.
Mate, every time he goes into contact, he finds a way to pop it out. He's bonkers.
Yeah, and what's interesting about him is that usually a tackle breaker like that is quite a stocky frame. He'd be about 6'2", quite lean. Just a super athlete, just an absolute super athlete. So I thought he was outstanding. But yeah, with the Dolphins, it really was just a matter of just some key moments that I'm sure they really would have wished back. And I did think their forwards got fairly dominated as well. Anything else on the Dolphins before we move on, mate?
No, I think you covered it off pretty well. Obviously, a couple of guys, mainly Hammer didn't kind of back up from Origin. That's a big out for them, obviously. But
on top of all the guys already missing as well.
Exactly, doesn't help.
Just shout out to the debutant too. I thought he did really well. He had an error at the back end of the game. I think he's a little bit raw at the moment, but I think Nafahu's got a big future in our game too.
Absolutely. I thought he was great too. Really, really solid.